With us on the broadcast is Mr. Dan Perry. Where do you see the conflict headed towards now? Because there were efforts over the last couple of days by Omani negotiators. That proposal has also been shelved by the Iranians.
I think we're still in a holding pattern, essentially, where the U.S. is gradually expanding the geographical and target scope of its operations, and occasionally you see lulls, but the fundamental situation prevails, and I'll try to explain it in brief. The U.S. basically has four options. One is to capitulate to these Iranian demands, which now include not just the continuation of the missile program and the militias program and not giving much on a nuclear thing, but also not even a promise to stop massacring protesters. And in addition to this, now they want control of and commercial benefit from the Strait of Hormuz. So you could capitulate. You could also resume kinetic warfare against Iran on along the model that you saw before. And this is basically a war of attrition that lasts a long time, and such dynamics generally favor the dictatorial side because they don't have to take public opinion into account. I think that that's problematic. The third option would be to change the nature of the conflict, and if it really does resume, make it total and make clear that the goal is regime change, and it would be much more brutal. It would involve more civilian damage, almost for sure, in Iran because the regime's facilities are embedded among civilian areas. It would immediately bring charges of war crimes, potential humanitarian disasters, and unpredictable escalations, but at least it would be a plan. And the fourth option would be, I think, not kinetic warfare, but a truly hermetic sea, land, and air blockade of Iran from every direction, including Pakistan, attempting to get the whole world on side, maybe even including China, to really, really smoke out the regime. Those are the four options, and I think Trump doesn't really want to decide before the midterms. After the midterms, he would have a much broader political scope in both extremes, both for military action that may not be so popular in America, but also for capitulation, which would carry its own political cost. That's the scenario. Netanyahu probably, who visited Trump yesterday, is driving for something to happen before the midterms. He has his own political calculations with an election planned almost a month before the U.S. midterms in November. My guess is Trump, if the Iranians will allow him to, by not escalating too much, will continue to more or less tread water until then. These latest developments in the Western Azerbaijan region of Iran, yeah, they advance the narrative a little bit, and we're seeing increasingly that there's a focus on a PMF in Iraq.
Yes.
When one speaks of the militia program, generally it's been Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas. I think we're going to hear more and more about the PMF.
There was a rather successful meeting between the Iraqi government and the U.S. delegation, resulting in reviving the oil pipeline towards the Mediterranean. The Iraqi Prime Minister, he's also been to Turkey. He was in fact just returning from Turkey, and he was supposed to head to Saudi Arabia. Now the latter part of his tour has been cancelled owing to these strikes. As Major General Sulakarji pointed out, there are US companies that are planning to invest, including Chevron. How do you think these strikes will impact the investments that are taking place? Are there likely to be an impact on this? Because up until now, it seems that all diplomatic engagements have been suspended between Iraq and Saudi Arabia.
Any investor that is half intelligent has to price in a possibility that a country like Iraq will be dragged back into cycles of violence. So it may not have an effect. It depends on whether it escalates. In general, Iraq is torn between two needs. One is the practical need to be aligned with the West and aligned with Saudi Arabia and figuring out how to export its oil efficiently and how to go about its business like a country that is anywhere near a normative semi-democracy. The other need, of course, is to deal with Iran, that views Iraq as something of a subordinate country, and that partly controls it through the PMF that my esteemed co-panelist seems to somewhat defend. And the PMF are basically the issue. Some will tell you that it's perfectly fine to have these militias in addition to a country's military. I don't think that's true. And throughout the Middle East, these militias that Iran has spread everywhere have caused havoc and death and destruction, and have absolutely undermined the sovereignty of countries from Lebanon and Syria to obviously Yemen. Potentially in the future, they're trying to do it with Jordan, and very clearly also with Iraq. The PMF may have played a role in subduing ISIS for sure, but the argument that they're a fundamentally terrorist group is not without foundation. The Kataib Hezbollah for sure is and has been designated as such. The argument goes that they are more subordinate to Iran than they are to the country that they're supposedly a part of. They're partly funded by Iran. That they have committed terrorist attacks against civilians, and they do the bidding of Iran in the region when it comes to the mayhem spreading. So, various elements of the PMF have fired drones at Israel when Iran wanted them to, and now they stand accused of doing the same with Saudi Arabia. And therefore, there has been a response that killed reportedly 20 of their number. Iraq, therefore, has to at least pretend to be upset by this, and so we now see meetings being canceled. But the reality is that that same Iraqi government has committed, even to the previous American President Biden, that they would find a way to dismantle the PMF and to incorporate the non-terrorist elements thereof into the Iraqi military and proceed like a normal country that doesn't have militias any more than India has militias that control territory and that are accepted, or that Canada does. The whole idea is preposterous. And the very acquiescence to it, even partly, has to do with the fundamental question of whether you believe Iran is a country that, under the Islamic Republic government that's hated by its own people, should act as an empire across the Middle East. And in a final analysis, that is what this conflict is all about, and eventually Iraq will have to grow up and decide if it wants to be an adult version of a country or to be a vassal state of Iran.
Absolutely. All right, I request you also to stay on with us, sir. We are tracking some breaking developments coming in. I'm running short of time, so I will request my panelists to give short reactions to this. But breaking news coming in, according to reports from American media, U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that the U.S. Saudi bombing of pro-Iranian militias overnight inside Iraq has been coordinated with the authorities in Baghdad. Trump has stated that those strikes were coordinated with the Iraqi government. Trump's reported assertion has come as Iraq's presidency denounced the U.S. Saudi attacks as a blatant violation of Iraq's sovereignty. Mr. Dan Perry still with us on the broadcast. So, first reaction from you. Donald Trump coming out and informing American media that these strikes have taken place in coordination with the government of Iraq. Who has publicly, on the face of it, condemned these attacks. So what do you make of Trump's assertions?
Yeah, it's almost funny. It reflects, obviously, what I said before about the duplicitous nature of Iraq's public posture here, because in reality, they're trying to get rid of the PMF, but they have to at least pretend, in order to satisfy and mollify Iran, that they're somehow upset by the attacks on the PMF. It's interesting that Trump is outing them and claiming that they were complicit in the attacks. It's not very sporting of Trump. But then again, I don't expect Trump to be sporting at the best of times.
All right. So requesting you to stay on with us. So we're tracking some further updates coming in. Now, the Israeli military has accused the Hezbollah of a blatant violation of the ongoing ceasefire, stating that the group launched an explosive drone overnight targeting an IDF engineering vehicle in southern Lebanon. Now, according to the military, the unmanned armored bulldozer was struck in the Ali al-Tahir Ridge area within the designated security buffer zone. No injuries among Israeli personnel have been reported. This marks the first major attack of its kind since the framework agreement between Israel and Lebanon was established in late June. Security officials have confirmed that Israel is currently deliberating on an official response. The Israeli military maintains that a massive underground Hezbollah complex exists beneath the ridge near Nabateh. Meanwhile, the current ceasefire agreement prevents ground forces from clearing these tunnels directly. The IDF stresses that troops will continue operations in the area to prevent further attacks. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Dan Perry, former editor-in-chief of Associated Press of Europe, West Asia and Africa region. Sir, first of its kind escalation since the ceasefire, the tripartite agreement was reached back in June. We have seen Netanyahu meet Donald Trump yesterday. We saw Joseph Aoun meet Trump last week. But yet there seems to be a stalemate. There is a slight progress that's happening. Israeli forces have withdrawn from one area. Lebanese troops are moving into pilot zones, but Hezbollah refuses to lay down its arms. There's a meeting that's going to take place on the 5th and the 6th of August in Rome. What are your hopes and expectations from this particular meeting? What do you think are the critical points of contention that need to be resolved?
I think nothing good will happen in Lebanon until Hezbollah is disarmed. And there is every reason to hope that this is possible because Hezbollah has been greatly weakened by Israeli military activity and is essentially surrounded because Syria is now hostile to Hezbollah since the Assad regime fell. And the new authorities in Syria would love to join the fight against Hezbollah because Hezbollah helped Assad. So they're pretty much vulnerable, and the Lebanese military itself needs help in dealing the coup de grace. And obviously the Americans don't want another Middle East quagmire. They're not eager to send in boots on the ground to assist the Lebanese military. There are fears that if Syria got involved, then maybe they would never leave and end up occupying Lebanon as they did for years, much of the territory. And of course, Israel is not a popular partner either. So I think there is basically a job description waiting to be posted for who wants to help Lebanon finish off Hezbollah, and that's the critical question. Are they going to be able to do it? As for the latest ceasefire violation, I really don't think it was the first, but Hezbollah is going to be Hezbollah. They know that right now Israel is under pressure by the U.S. to lower the flames in Lebanon and not do anything that will give the Iranians an excuse to make more demands or to walk away from potential talks. And so with Israel somewhat constrained by the U.S., Hezbollah is trying to see what they can get away with. Their goal is to foment chaos and to spark conflict, and if at all possible, to get Israel-Lebanon to walk away from what seems to be their dance of potential peace and resume a state of constant tension and hostility. Hezbollah needs to be crushed, as do all of the Iranian proxies in the region, and that doesn't always look pretty, the crushing of Iranian proxy militias, but I don't think acquiescence with them, I don't think accommodation is possible. I don't think jihadists can be convinced of something. And so it's very sad for Lebanon that they're saddled with this situation, and Lebanon has a good government right now under Joseph Aoun and Prime Minister Salam. They've been courageous in their public statements. They obviously are patriots who want peace and who want prosperity for their own country. But I think they're going to need help. And as for the August meeting, I hope that it will provide them with all the help they need.
Absolutely, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for taking our time sharing your analysis and assessment with us on the broadcast.